Okay, it looks like we're live.
There we go.
Do we have anybody? Is there anybody out there? We have two viewers. That might be me on my phone.
And me.
And you on your phone. But yeah, hopefully everything's okay. Let me just see if I can hear the audio. Or maybe you can hear it on your phone. It's not come through on mine yet.
Yeah, I can hear
Everything seems okay?
it. Yeah.
All right, sweet. So yeah, here we are again, Mike. For anyone who's not familiar, I'm Brian Waters from the QTube, and I'm very pleased to be here with Mike Ladouceur, who maybe Mike, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Sure. Yeah. Well, just to say we're kind of introducing this Orchestral Composition Accelerator program that I'm starting and that we're co-promoting together. So I'm Mike Ladouceur, and I'm a composer. I write music for film, TV, games, and I'm also a professor at Royal College of Music and at Cambridge University. And so kind of starting this program as a way to combine a lot of the things that I've taught over many years and try to extend that to a lot more people outside of the universities that I teach at, and try to give some more practical experience to people who are trying to maybe gear up for their first big orchestral recording session or want to feel prepared and know more about that process. Or even just to kind of level up their portfolio and walk away with some couple really nicely produced pieces that they can showcase at a professional level. So.
Yeah. Oops, I think I was muted. Let me repeat that. For anybody who's who missed the stuff that we've been sending out, unlike everything else on the QTube, this is not focused exclusively on media composition. You can bring that to the table by all means, but this is more overarching orchestral composition, right, Mike?
Yeah, so the focus of this is really just on writing and recording for orchestra. So you can build that skill set and you can apply that to whichever type of composition you'd like to do, whether it's concert or if it is media composition or dance or any kind of collaborative art form. The reason I wanted to separate that is so that I think it's something that deserves its own focus. And I think it's probably why I think a lot of people maybe feel a bit intimidated by recording with orchestra, is because there is so much prep and there is so much, one, I think mostly because it's expensive, costs a lot of money. And so if you're going to do it yourself, it's a huge investment. Or if you're doing it on a project, you're now spending somebody else's money. And that's even scarier because now you have this big pressure to deliver. So it's really to help people focus on getting that right, and being able to go into a project and feeling very confident, and also being able to show collaborators, I've done this before, so this is a way for me to do this. So anyway, yeah, it's not specifically focused, like we're not going to be writing to picture, or you're welcome to write to picture during the course, but I'm not focusing on that with you. I'm focusing on the actual orchestration and orchestral writing and the prep for recording with an orchestra.
So, like, just out of this session this evening, well, it's the evening in the UK, was really intended as an opportunity for you guys out there to ask questions. But in the absence of those, we're going to just talk through some of the details again. But you can find everything on Mike's website at mikeladouceur.com. But yeah, a question comes to mind actually, which is if somebody was coming into it who really was, in general, developing themselves as a media composer, but they saw the value in this. and perhaps they wanted to do a piece that was for picture, would that be feasible? And if so, the end piece that they get with the orchestra, to what extent do you think that the session would be able to accommodate actually syncing it to the picture, or is that beyond the scope of this particular thing?
Well, I mean, to answer the first part of that, you're absolutely welcome to write to picture. So if you have, even if it's a commercial project that you're working on, you're welcome to do this because I specifically approached this program in a way that I don't want any involvement in the ownership of your music or any kind of publishing, anything like that. I know there's some kind of programs out there that would maybe maintain a bit of that, or that like some competitions that if you win, they will like release on a soundtrack album, but they own the publishing. I don't want any kind of involvement in that. Mostly because it's just messy and it's not what it's about. I'm not trying to, earn any money off anyone's music. Um, so you're welcome to bring whatever commercial project you're working on, or if it's something you're just rescoring, or if it's a concert piece, you can bring that to the table. This is like the recording sessions are your time to record. And it's a total buyout. So, you also don't owe any residuals to the orchestra, anything like that. So the way I've gone about organizing this is so that we are doing just a total buyout from the beginning. And then, sorry, remind me the second part of your question on that because I
So,
got
like,
wrapped up in the first.
to what extent could the session be expected to
Yeah.
actually?
So, I mean, in short, I don't expect to like have the picture up during the session, but it's honestly it's something I never do anyway. Because when I'm recording, like to me, it's just having an extra distraction. And I've been on big film projects, and we're recording in Air or Abbey Road, and we have the picture. But honestly, who is it for? It's really for the director who's in the room. It's kind of a show that they're putting on, or maybe for the music editor who knows a lot more about like that particular picture edit or something that might have changed because of a different meeting. So it's useful for them to be seeing what's happening in the scene. But honestly, from a recording point of view, I don't think it helps. I'm not seeing the scene now. I've seen the scene a million times already. I'm not seeing it now in the studio and thinking like, ooh, maybe we should, like put a mute on the trumpet. It's so I think at that point, like we're prepping everything ahead of time so that it will all be recorded to click. What, you have set to click is already set to picture. So we just need to focus on the music.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I'll stop there because I don't want to give the impression that this is really about media composition because it's clearly not. But it just came to mind. So I guess perhaps
I think it is relevant, though. I mean, not to cut you off. I think it is a relevant topic to bring up because it's all, from my point of view for the recording, it's all the same, whether it's a media composition project or not. And I think something that kind of another question people might have off the back of that is often about stems in recording. So one thing is like having the picture, but also what about backing tracks, and kind of what we bring to the studio for that. This will be covered during the process of the program, but usually in the studio, if anything, just have like the demo. I don't often have like tons of stems ready for the session because I really just want to hear the live that we're recording and be able to, make comments on that and focus on it. So actually, when I go into the session, it's pretty stripped back, the Pro Tools. Oh.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, I mean, we're approaching it slightly higgledy-piggledy because obviously you and I have had a fair number of conversations about it. So let's just take it from the top and explain what the proposition is, what the opportunity is, and how people can take advantage of it, and what they would expect to take away from it. And perhaps that will prompt some questions in the chat. What do you think?
Sure. So, I think the first thing is kind of just to describe what the program is. So over about 7 weeks, what I've got planned is a mix of some lectures and some review sessions that we'll have as group tutorials. And the whole purpose of this, again, is to help you learn the process to improve your orchestration, your orchestral composition, and how to prepare to record with an orchestra. Um, so that's what you're going to learn over 7 weeks. And the way that I've designed this is that we've got 2 recording sessions in this. So the first one is for 20 strings, which is quite a big session in itself. But I think that's a good sort of building block place to start. And then the second session is for 50-piece orchestra. So that is kind of the big culmination. That's what we're aiming towards.
And each
Um,
session would be about like 3 minutes of music or something like that.
yeah, I think 2.5 minutes of music is a safe amount to write. So each participant in each recording session will get a half hour of recording. And a half hour is a good amount of time for 2.5 minutes of music where we can record that comfortably. I think with my experience in recording in Macedonia as well, I think 5 minutes per hour, 5 minutes of music per hour of recording is a pretty good gauge. And that ensures that we can get really good recordings of everybody's pieces. So that's the aim, is that you'll have these 2 recording sessions. And that also means 2 separate pieces of music. So over this course, you'll write one piece of music in that first 3 weeks leading up to that first session. And then you'll write another piece of music for the 50-piece orchestra that you'll record later. Um, so that's the aim of the project. The tuition that you'll have over this, so the way that it will be delivered is we'll have, it'll all be delivered remotely, so you can be anywhere in the world. We've already got a bunch of students signed up from, I've got one in LA, I've got some in Europe, we've got a few in the UK. So, this will all be, it's designed so that, you don't have to be like in London in order to do this. And also you don't need to fly somewhere or take off work for a week and commit to like an intensive. I tried to design it so this can work around your schedule if you're in the middle of something. Um, I'm going to give it'll be a mix of group classes and one-to-one tuition. So for all the participants and auditors, you'll be able to join the group classes, there'll be 2 per week. So we'll have a lecture, and then and that'll be in the middle of the week. And each of these will be at 6 p.m. UK time. I figure just as kind of around when we're streaming now is sort of a good catch-all time where it's not too late for those in Europe or even Eastern Europe, and it's not too early in the morning for those in LA on the West Coast, North America. So thinking that we can do it kind of in the evenings UK time. The lectures will be in the middle of the week. I thought that because if, say, you have to start work early and you're in the West Coast in North America, the lectures and the group sessions will all be recorded. So if you had to miss it, you can catch up on it. And that way the lecture is maybe a little easier to miss because you can watch that content later. We'll also have group sessions, which will fall on the weekend, also in the evening in the UK time. And in those group sessions, or the group review sessions, rather, that's where I'm going to have a chance to actually review your work in progress individually each week. So it'll be a big group call, and the participants will get to share their work, and I'll go through that. So you also get the chance to learn from your colleagues in the program. And I find this is what I do at the college, what I've done for many years. It's a really effective way of also learning from other people's mistakes along the way. So we have those 2 sets of sessions that'll happen every week. So you get 2 group sessions per week in this, and each of those will be about 2 hours long, I'm imagining. And then in the week leading up to each recording session, all the participants will get a one-to-one session. So those will be private. Those will be organized based on our mutual schedules. So, depending on what time zone you're in, we can coordinate that. And that's to make sure that I can have a direct look at your at your work and make sure that it's ready for the stage. So we can really polish and go through, and it's so that I can also make sure that you're going to get the most out of it and you're going to get a really nicely recorded piece. So I can kind of help guide and do a little hand holding if I need to through that process. So rest assured that if you're doing it, I'm going to make sure that you get there with the right stuff on the stage. And then we have the recording sessions. So the recording sessions will be in Macedonia. I've worked with them a few times before. They're a fantastic group. It's the FAMES Orchestral Recording Project. And they have this amazing purpose-built studio. They've been doing this for 15 years, 16, I think now. And they're really like a big family. These people record day in, day out together. They do, I think, over like 400 sessions a year. They're really good. And so I'll be flying to Macedonia for those. Those will also be remote. My plan is to live stream both of those sessions so we can also just share that with the broader community. And so a lot of people can be a fly on the wall and see a session like that and how it's produced. And I'm going to be producing those sessions with you. So I actually did this yesterday at Royal College of Music. We have a big annual project with our students. We had Matt Dunkley in, who's a kind of one of the most sought after session conductors in Hollywood. We had him run the session and we did it with a student orchestra and we did exactly this, 6 hours of recording. We had 14 students. So they had slightly less than a half hour on the podium and we just recorded all their pieces down, same size group. So I'll be doing exactly that. We'll be going to Macedonia. I'll be producing the sessions and making sure that you get a really good recording of your music. So alongside that, well, I guess we'll get to kind of what you get and all that stuff in a little bit. I think I'm kind of go down the line. So is that a good kind of overview of the program, just as a sounding board, Brian?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's very clear for me. I'm sure that some people who, it's quite a big commitment, and I'm sure that there'll be some people who perhaps want to clarify one or two things. But I think that, yeah, to me that's crystal clear. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Mike.
Right. We've got a great question in the chat I just saw. That is, what is the difference in experience that an auditor can expect versus that of a full participant? So great question. Thank you for your question on that. The auditors, you'll be able to sit in on all of the group sessions. So all of the lectures and all of the group review sessions as well. And you're welcome to ask questions in those sessions as well. You're not just a fly on the wall. What I can't do is like review your music independently in those review sessions. But you're welcome to ask questions and be a part of it just as much as the class. So you'll essentially be involved in all of those sessions. You just won't be writing your music to be recorded. So that's what the full participants are getting to do. The only other thing that you won't be able to do is the one-to-one sessions, obviously. But just to put that out there, those are private. And I think it's important to have that opportunity for individual participants to also have that one-on-one time. So those won't be recorded unless the participant wants to record them for themselves, but they're not going to be like publicly available to anyone else. That's your private time. But yeah, so you're welcome to join in on any of those sessions. And even if you were local or within Europe and wanted to come to some of the recording sessions, you're more than welcome. So, I'll be flying to to Macedonia for those sessions. If you wanted to come and be a part of that, you're welcome to join. So that's, I mean, for anyone who wants to come, just to be clear, that's at your own expense, but you'd be more than welcome to kind of be there and be a part of it as well. I'll also say, I mean, maybe this is a good time to talk about like what you receive, just to kind of also follow up on that. So obviously, if you're a full participant, you get the professional mixes of your music. So we're not just recording it, we're also going to have this mixed. It'll be by Anna Heath, who mixes most of my music. Anna is a good friend and collaborator, and she mixed my score for Somewhere in Between, which I recorded in Macedonia. So that's a very good example of what you can expect to receive. So Anna will be mixing the recordings. So full participants will receive that. They'll also receive their Pro Tools sessions from the recording. So if you want to combine it with anything else later or remix your projects, you have full control. It's all your music, all your assets. The participants will also get behind the scenes footage. So we're going to do video footage and photos of the players in the studio. We can show a little bit of that in a bit to kind of see what that looks like. But you'll also get that. So you can use that for self-promotion of your work and whatever you'd like to use that for. But then participants as well as auditors will also receive, I've got templates for orchestration. So my Sibelius template that I use when I orchestrate, I've already, kind of done the layout. I've got it set up in a certain way, which makes it very quick, so that you can you take the MIDI, export it out of your DAW, bring it into Sibelius, and you can kind of get it sketched and orchestrated very quickly. I'm going to show you that process through the program, but I'm going to be also giving you my template that I use for that, as well as some of the templates that I use for session planning. So how I plan, like what's the running order, how I organize, like, do I need to record this many more minutes of brass versus strings over this many days of recording, and how I can stay organized for a session. During the program, I'll show you kind of how I do those things, but that's a very crucial part of this. And when you're planning it, how you can understand how many people do I even need to book, and how many people do I need to, can I save a day of recording? There's actually, through this process, I remember saving an entire day of brass recording at Abbey Road on, I think it was Black Widow, just from staying organized. And see, if you can imagine, that was probably upwards of 50,000 pounds. So uh, so we'll have that. We'll also have lifetime access to all the archive group sessions. So all the lectures and the group review sessions going to record. We'll archive that. I'll give you lifetime access to that. You can always go back to it. And everybody will get a nice certificate of completion as well. So just as a way to show that you've done this, and to use to say, to kind of prove that you've been through this process. Cool. See another question in the chat.
And
So we've
there's like
got-
I don't know if you mentioned it. Sorry, Pro Tools files and stuff. Yeah, well, that's part of
yeah,
it.
yeah. So the participants, you'll get your Pro Tools files, all the audio files, all those assets. Those will be yours. Which we should get pretty much right away from the sessions, because those will be sent to the mixing engineer as well as the participants simultaneously.
I mean, from a YouTube point of view, that we'd be really interested in following people's journey on this, and if anybody felt like sharing what they've done, and perhaps even sharing their experience, that could be something interesting for us to share on YouTube as well. So there's scope there for perhaps sharing your music, if you were interested.
Absolutely, yeah. I see another question in the chat. How is engraving handled? Is it reviewed by an orchestral librarian? Pretty much short answer, yes. And that orchestral librarian is me. So part of this review process, and depending on how it goes and how we get into this, I may also bring on an extra set of hands or extra set of eyes from some of my colleagues to help look over that. But part of that is having those one-to-ones in these review sessions so that I can make sure that it's managed. And I think depending on who is participating and what notation software everybody's working in, I may take all of those on board at a point so that I have kind of control of the delivery and may handle sort of like the final engraving of that. So what my aim is that when we arrive to this stage, we'll have a consistent set of scores across all of the participants, and it's essentially just going to be like recording different cues. So it'll be a pretty streamlined process. That's also so that we don't waste any time like swapping over in the middle of the recording. We can go straight from one cue to the next. They'll all be laid out on the stage. From the beginning of the day, the conductor will have all the scores and we just go, okay, moving on to the next one. Everyone ready? Start. That's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to
great.
try to help, like that side of things. I don't want you to feel like, oh, I'm not the best at engraving or my scores don't look good. This is part of what that program's about, is to make sure that when you're there on the stage, everything is taken care of. So, but also to help teach and make sure that, it's not just handing this over and then somebody does it for you properly once, and then the next job you get, you still don't know how to do it. It's, the aim is to teach you so that you know how to do it properly and to deliver properly. It's a great question.
Yeah, great question. Thank you, Super Blonde, a regular viewer. So yeah, was there anything else you wanted to cover, Mike?
Just some basics of kind of when and where. I mean, I mentioned that all the tuition will be delivered online, and the recording sessions will be in Macedonia. So then outside of that, I've got this information on my website, and I've got also a schedule that's broken down. So it starts April 10th will be the first lecture. And in the lead up to this, I will give a bit more information in kind of maybe the week leading up to that first lecture to maybe give like a brief. And so people can actually get started on writing these pieces. So I'd like to kind of get started a little bit early so that we don't feel like, okay, we start day one and we're already in a rush and I wish I had more time to write this. I want you to feel like you have had the time and can be really proud of the work that you're recording. These should be kind of evergreen recordings that you can use for a long time to promote yourself and to pitch for projects. So I will be giving a bit more information in the lead up to that, in kind of how we can start preparing for writing those pieces and what to expect. But April 10th will be the first one, and that will lead up through May 22nd. And so on the schedule, I've got all the lectures happening on a Wednesday, all of the review sessions happening on a Sunday, 6 p.m. UK time, is what we'll be operating with. And then the recording session, those dates are booked. We've got the 26th of April for the first one and the 17th of May for the big 50-piece one. So, yep. Then another question coming up here, how much additional money to budget for travel stay in Macedonia? That's a great question. So for travel, it depends on where you're coming from. Of course, if you're coming from London, looking at round trip flights, I mean, I usually use Skyscanner, is usually where I find kind of the best flight deals. But from London, it's probably like maybe about 300 pounds round trip for flights. Or actually, I think it's less than that. I might be thinking about for both trips. But you'd have to look into it individually. It's not that expensive if you're in Europe to get to Macedonia. And there's direct flights from a few different places. I think one time I flew kind of out of Austria. So I took like a connecting flight to Vienna and then from Vienna to Skopje. The accommodation is pretty predictable. It's about like maybe 100 pounds a night in quite a nice hotel. The first time I went, I stayed in an Airbnb for a little bit cheaper, which was a really nice apartment that I had to myself. So everything is pretty affordable. I mean, 100 pounds for a hotel, and I'm probably a 4-star hotel. Breakfast included, and then Skopje itself is very cheap. So one morning when I stayed in an Airbnb, I went out and was just looking for breakfast. I went to a hotel and had like a full, kind of continental plus breakfast for less than €5. So just to get an idea, the kind of cost of living there is very low. So that's one reason why the orchestra is so affordable there. So
Maybe
yeah,
we
good
should
to know.
maybe we should organize a composer's house. We all stay there together.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, depending on who's interested and who, how people want to go and stuff like that, that's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, it could be quite cost effective, and we could look at self catering a bit and stuff. But yeah, there's all sorts of options. I mean, I think that from the UK, if you were very lucky, you'd be able to get some pretty low cost flights out there. It all depends on timing and good fortune and things like that.
Yeah. Or if you're coming from America and maybe looking at it as part of a bigger trip to Europe, then it'd be easier to kind of like add it on to, if you were already visiting Italy or something like that, it'd be easy to kind of add it on to that.
Yeah, a nice thing to include in a bit of travel, I would say, a session with Fame's
Yeah.
project.
Worth noting, it should also be a really nice time of year to be in Macedonia, kind of, early spring um, into the summer. It won't be too hot because Macedonia is, for those who don't know, it's just north of Greece. Um, it's fairly temperate, but in the late summer can get quite hot. It's fairly south. So in early spring is a really nice time of year to be there.
Sounds bloody great, Mike.
Cool. I think just kind of going down the line, talking through a couple of these things. One big thing that I think is kind of what do I need to participate? So first I'd say, well, why don't I start with like, who is this for? Um, I think this program is for someone who is either, maybe kind of early in their career and they have not had much experience or opportunity to record with a lot of players or even have ever had their music performed live. I think this is a great opportunity to do that, to do this in a proper way where another reason I want to create this program is because I have so much experience recording. I've got over 600 hours in the studio with different size ensembles, and to be able to kind of show you the right way to do it and to prevent you from having to deal with hundreds of hours of making mistakes is a goal of mine, so I think it's a great opportunity to kind of learn the correct way of dealing with this from the beginning in terms of kind of planning and kind of, budgeting time and that sort of stuff. So if you're early in your career, this could be a great opportunity for that. Even if you're a bit more experienced in your career, I know a lot of composers who maybe they've only written production music and everything's been with samples. Or maybe someone who is a successful EDM producer, has been working in music in a different area for a long time and wants to know a bit more about writing for orchestra. This is a great opportunity for that. So whether you're kind of earlier in your career or kind of don't know, haven't had too much experience with orchestra or orchestration, I think this is a really hands-on orchestration course where you get the best result out of that and you actually get some recordings. So that's kind of who I'm intending this for. So then what do I need to participate? A DAW, you need some digital audio workstation that you work in. So, most film composers use either sort of Cubase or Logic. A lot of producers use Ableton, and then there's a slew of others. Some people write in Pro Tools. Pro Tools isn't great for MIDI. It's fantastic for recording, but um, or I've seen some other, kind of lesser known DAWs out there. Either or, whatever DAW you use, that's fine. You can work in whatever DAW you feel comfortable in. That's not a problem at all. And then you need some notation software. So there are free ones out there like Muse Score. I'm primarily working in Sibelius. It's just because it's something that I know very well and I'm very fast in it. I probably know Sibelius even better than I know Cubase. And so I will be focusing some of my, kind of when I'm showing you the things that I do, I'll be demonstrating that in Sibelius. But we've already got a few people signed up who use Dorico or who use Muse Score, something like that. It won't be a problem. I'm happy to work around that. And if I really felt like at some point in the program that I needed somebody who is a bit more of a specialist to kind of help lend a hand in those areas, then I know who I would bring in for that. So if you're using another notation software, that's fine. You just need to have some familiarity with the notation software to make the most out of it, I think. If you don't feel that you do, then maybe auditing is a great option to start with. This is something that we hope to run more of these programs, maybe even do them twice a year. So auditing to start might be a great way to kind of like dip your feet into that.
So Mike, to what extent is a lack of knowledge of music theory gonna hinder you on this? Perhaps you're pretty competent with the DAW, you're pretty competent with, you're very creative, but I mean, to what extent would you need, knowledge of music theory for something like this?
I don't think, music theory, I think is one thing where a lot of people maybe, I think honestly, most people have way more music theory knowledge than they think they do. I think it's because, again, it feels like a very academic term. And so it feels like, oh, if I didn't, do a 4-year degree, can I say that I understand music theory? I think I know plenty of people who are fantastic musicians who work mostly by ear, who probably know more about music theory than somebody who's done a degree. And so I don't think that that is a hindrance in any way. I think even if your understanding of harmony is fairly rudimental, part of this program is aimed at trying to help. It's all, as much as it's an orchestration course, it's a composition course, and so this is what I'm thinking about: orchestration, but also orchestral composition. And the difference between those two is not just understanding how the different instruments of the orchestra work together and how their colors work and how you can apply those, but how do you actually write to make the most out of this group? So part of the design and also having a string session first and then doing the sort of the big show with the full orchestra is so that you get kind of like a taster, and we can focus on one group, which is the group that most people probably start writing for, and it's probably the most exhausted resource of the orchestra, is the strings. So utilizing that, and helping to kind of build on that. So to answer your question a little more directly, I don't think you need, crazy understanding of music theory. A decent understanding of some basics of harmony and melody would be great. I think if you're an absolute beginner and you don't know how to turn a computer on, you don't know what a dot is, you don't know most of the terminology that I'm saying, then it might not be for you. I think I would want you to get the most out of it, and so there would be other ways to maybe build on those foundations first before getting into this. Um, and I'm also happy to answer some questions. If you feel like maybe you're on the cusp, reach out, share some of your music with me. I can give you an assessment and sort of see where you're at with it and let you know if I think that it's the right opportunity. If I, think that I can't get you there in this amount of time, I'll tell you. I don't want you to spend a bunch of money and waste it.
I think that's great. I think that I think that's great. I mean, I think if people are hesitating, they're not sure, perhaps they're lacking confidence, they can just reach out to you. They can perhaps show you some of the work that they've done, and you can give them an honest assessment of whether they're ready, whether they would benefit, whether they'd fit in, if you like, to the cohort, and where they could expect to go, where they could expect to be really in their journey by the end of the 7 weeks, I guess.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to. Like I said, I'm very approachable, very easy to find on the internet and reach out to. So probably the easiest way is through my Discord. Um, and just feel free. You can share some stuff, and I'll let you know the truth. Um, you know.
Even if the truth hurts. So we've got a link to your web page with all of these details, and then I guess that on your web page there's a link to your Discord, right?
Yeah, yeah. We can maybe even put a link to the Discord in the chat for this video.
All right, great. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. Looks like Super Blonde's sold on the idea of being an auditor, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it would be great to have you. And Jonathan, I think you'd get a lot out of this. Yeah, Jonathan is a regular contributor as well in the Discord, and I know your music quite well. I think you'd get a lot out of this.
Fantastic. So places are being taken up, which is great. We're the first cohort is kind of filling up. We're looking for maximum of sort of 10 or 12 full participants. Is that right?
12 full participants, yeah. That's the limit. Mostly because that's the limit that I think that I can manage properly. I also don't want to do too many people. I don't want to spread the attention too thin. And so, 12 is, like you said yesterday, I did this with 14. But in the interest of giving you a good amount of time sort of on the podium with your music, I think 12 is the max. I don't want to go over that. So that will be a good size cohort to max out at.
Super Blonde has fired another question there about the archiving of the session.
I'm not sure yet which way they'll be archived. I may put them through Teachable, just because it's maybe a little bit easier to, like, Teachable already has protections in place, like you can't kind of like download and things like that. You can set things within Dropbox, but also I may migrate from Teachable at some point, but I'll make it in a way that it's easily accessible so that you can go back and access those.
Great. And I'm not sure whether we've mentioned this during the 45 minutes that we've been on, but there's an early bird discount running until the 11th of March. Is that right?
Yes. So we've got a few more early bird spots left. We've got up to 6 spaces early bird for the full participants, just because because we're doing a reduction cost to offer a sort of early bird deal, but there are costs associated with it. So obviously the recording costs quite a bit of money and the mixing. So we can't discount that too much or for too long. So there's still a few of those left, a couple left. So those are filling up already. And yeah, then a max of the full participants at 12. So if you're keen, I'd get in soon. We've got, I think, just about 2 left on those that are filling up.
So come on, everybody, come on. No, I'm really excited to see who does it and to kind of follow along, really. And I think it's fantastic, Mike. And thank you for sort of bringing this to the attention of the QTube community. I'm sure there are lots of people who would love to do it, and hopefully there are enough people who can fit it in with their schedule and sort of find the finance for it and everything. And we'll be looking to perhaps do this on a semi-regular basis. Is that right?
Yeah. So we'll see how this first one goes. We're just about at the point where it's we're greenlit, so it'll go ahead with the participants that we have, and so I'm really excited to share that. And I think also with the people that I already have signed up, a few of them are private students of mine, and I know their music quite well. I'm quite excited. It's a strong cohort already. So I think this will be a really nice opportunity to also kind of share and learn from each other.
Fantastic. Well, I think we can work towards wrapping up, but I'm just going to get in one of my usual plugs for QTube stuff. And so we got a heck of a lot of stuff coming out over the next few weeks related to Score Relief, related to our film activities of daily living, talking about future film projects, and also some of the stuff that Archie's been working away on during the last 2 or 3 months while Score Relief's been running. We've got some amazing stuff coming, but we're going to do it step by step. And the next thing is this Friday, we're going to be we have some news about the shortlist of the from the entries for Score Relief 2024. So we'll be sharing some really important updates on how the judging is going, and giving you the opportunity to basically see the shortlist and see whether you're on it. So join us on Friday here on YouTube.
Wow, very exciting.
That is exciting, and thank you, Mike, for helping with the judging as well on that.
Yeah, there's been some really strong contestants that I've seen on there too. So I think it'll be a good year, and you guys will get some good recordings for the winners as well.
Do you want to just take a couple of minutes to talk about your impressions, or do you want to do that another time from the ones that
We
you've
can
heard?
do that another time. Yeah, we can. I think not spoil too much, and we get down to the final shortlist. But there's been, what I will say, maybe just a general impression is I think it was helpful having the kind of spotting sheet on it, and I think people seem to respond to that quite well, and I think that the general level of like sensitivity to picture that I've seen in this versus say last year's Score Relief or previous, I think was higher because I think having that guide, people really were able to make it very musical but flow with the picture quite well. So
Yeah.
it was quite tough. It was like for the judging I've done so far, it was sort of a couple of them with splitting hairs. It's like these are both really good, but which one is that much better to go forward?
It's extremely tough, isn't it? And it's not an absolute thing, is it? It's subjective to some extent. But yeah, it's interesting about the fact that you think that the spotting sheet has somehow elevated, if you like, people's ability to sort of respond to what's happening on the screen, and I think that's very likely to be one of the factors. I also want to believe that the fact that people have been playing with the resources in general from the QTube, and indeed things like your masterclasses, have perhaps also elevated people's ability to work to pictures. But perhaps I'm deluded.
I think it's always progressing. I think, you do a fantastic job with QTube. And I think all these resources that you keep putting out, I think are really useful and really practical. So.
All right, Mike. Well, thank you for coming on and for giving us 50 minutes of your Wednesday evening.
Well, thank you for giving me the platform. If you have any questions about this, if you're on the fence in any way, or you just want to know more about the program, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to answer questions. I understand it's quite a commitment to participate. It's not pocket money. But the way I tried to design this in a way where I really thought financially that, I've seen this kind of program a lot of times, and I thought a lot of them, and not to put any of the other ones down, they all do different things, but I think there's some programs out there that they get a lot of big names who come on, and it's like, oh, you have this fill in the blank, famous orchestrator, famous mixer, famous, music contractor, whatever. You're going to learn from the best. But practically speaking, because of the overheads, in order to plan something and still make it cost effective, maybe you get one session of their time and you get, only one sort of chamber recording at the end of it. I thought for the money, I wanted to put together a program where you got twice as much recording, and it was much more focused on the practical tuition, so that you actually walked away feeling like, I'm ready to do this. I can now take this forward and also with the behind the scenes footage, I know this is really important for promoting yourself, and showcasing yourself to future clients. Or even if you're on the cusp, you're pitching for something that's just above you, but you can prove, listen, I can manage this, and make the studio feel okay about hiring you because they know you've done it before. So that's the aim, is really making it very practical.
Well, it's fantastic, Mike. Thank you for all of your hard work in putting it together, and yeah, it's gonna be an amazing 7-week journey for everybody. So yeah, good luck to you, Mike, and good luck to all of the participants. And we'll be waiting with bated breath to see how that goes. So thanks again. Have a great evening, Mike, and all of the people that have tuned in, and hopefully see you here on Friday for our news about the shortlists. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, Mike. See you.